for the MySQL ND, an unknown powerful PHP extension. First, just a poll, who knows MySQL? What is MySQL ND and who actually uses it on production servers? 2 hands. That will be a nice conference. So, the goal is to explain you what this is actually and what you can do with it. So if you can learn some things today, I will be happy. This is my goal. So hello, hola. I'm Julien Pauli. For those who don't know who I am, I'm working at Syncio Labs, mainly in the product team on the Blackfire project, if you know it. I'm a PHP internals developer and extensions writer. I've been doing this for several years now, and I'm the 5.5 main release manager and 5.6 co-release manager. So I release the PHP versions and try to synchronize with the distributions that they get the packages at the time. So you can fetch me on GitHub, etc. So our schedule, which will be a little bit short because time slots are a little bit short. Now, many things to say about MySQL ND. A quick recall on the MySQL protocol, okay? Because when you talk with MySQL, you talk to it using a protocol. Discussions about Lib MySQL, which is the library to communicate with MySQL. Then an introduction to MySQL ND, okay, and exploring the capabilities of MySQL ND. Okay, so let's go. Do you know the MySQL protocol? Have you already dumped TCP dump or something like that? The line between MySQL and its client, it's very very interesting protocol, which is detailed, okay, on the documentation. Basically, it looks like this, and this is TCP dumped using Wireshark with a GUI, which is pretty nice. So they discuss MySQL and its clients. They exchange many things that you can read about. Okay, so about the capabilities, about the columns, the car sets, and the things like that. Okay, so this is an example. When you use MySQL, you have 2 protocols when you want to query MySQL. You have what is called the textual protocol and the binary protocol. Each one has drawbacks and cons and pros. So we're going to detail this in a few minutes. But basically, you have to remember that you don't have only one protocol when you want to query MySQL. You have 2 protocols that you can use. The binary protocol is automatically used when you use prepared statements, and the textual protocol, which is less efficient, it's when you use normal queries. Okay, so query, things like that. This is an example of the textual protocol. The main drawback of this protocol is that the MySQL server has to translate every non-text column to something which is text, and this eats CPU. And on the other side, if you want to convert back, you can. It's not mandatory, but you can do this. It uses CPU as well to transform back the text into the right type. Okay, this is what we're going to see. This is what MySQL ND does, and that's why you can fetch columns of the integer type converted to an integer in PHP, because MySQL ND knows how to do this. We're going to talk about this later. Okay, this is an example of the textual protocol, and this is the same example of the binary protocol. Okay, and we can see this is much more efficient because, for example, you have an integer. It is 4 bytes, and it is transmitted on the wire as 4 bytes. Okay, and then a string, and then everything else. So this is an example, so that now you know when you want to communicate with MySQL servers, you have 2 protocols you must implement. Now, when we use PHP with MySQL, because MySQL has many clients, okay, but the main client that is interesting to us is PHP. So PHP is the client of a MySQL server, you use typically 3 extensions, okay? Extension MySQL, which is pretty old and you probably don't use it nowadays. MySQLi, improved, okay, and PDO. And those 3 extensions need connectors to connect to MySQL servers, and you have the choice between 2 connectors nowadays, Lib MySQL and MySQLnd. So this is when you use Lib MySQL, and this is when you use MySQLnd. The difference is that MySQLnd is part of the PHP core, which is not the case with Lib MySQL, and we're going to see that when we are part of PHP, we can do very interesting things because PHP directly connects and directly talks to MySQL. It does not go through a library which is external to it. Okay, and we can do much more optimizations into MySQLnd than in Lib MySQL because we can't touch Lib MySQL. It's not our code, our PHP's code. So Lib MySQL is the standard you use whenever you have a project and you want it to communicate with MySQL, you bind it with Lib MySQL, okay? This is the connector, which is owned by Oracle nowadays. It is double licensed. It's a little bit strange. I want open source, not open source. I want things like that. You should read very carefully if you are allowed to use it for the usage you do, okay? Under Debian, you find it with the Lib MySQL client package. Okay, it basically implements the MySQL protocol so that whenever you bind a program with it, this program can now communicate with MySQL. This is an example using Lib MySQL. Okay, this is a C example. This is just to remind everybody that PHP is just on top of C, and when we have to design PHP functions, we usually give them the same name as the C layer we use, okay? So here you can see MySQL option, MySQL real connect, MySQL select DB, which are PHP functions of the MySQL extension. They are also functions of the C layer. This is why we have a strange str API in PHP, you know, because it is bound to the libc str that everyone here should know about, I think, so that's why. This is an example, okay? So I just connect to a database and grab results and then display them as a printf, and then it's over. This is pretty simple. The main drawbacks using Lib MySQL is that I have to link my program with Lib MySQL, so I have to have Lib MySQL on my server, on my machine. It should be the case, but this is always an external API. This is not very nice. And what if I want to go further than this API? If I want really to do things very tricky that the Lib MySQL does not allow me to do, I can't. Okay, simply I can't. And we're going to see about memory, that the Lib MySQL is good. It's a good lib, but in the case of PHP, it's not the best choice. So the same now, using MySQLnd. MySQLnd, you like it, you will use it, I hope. I will show you why, okay? So MySQLnd is MySQL native driver. It stands for native driver. What is it? It is, back some days ago, PHP developers, when seeing that Oracle and things like that took the MySQL project, and they decided to rewrite the entire Lib MySQL library into PHP core. Okay, it's thousands, hundreds of thousands of C code, and doing this, we don't simply rewrite the Lib MySQL code to PHP. We optimize it so that PHP now efficiently uses MySQL. Whatever extension you use, this is very important. This should be invisible to you. If you use MySQL, if you use MySQLi, if you use PDO MySQL, in the lower layer, they will use all 3 extensions, the MySQLnd capabilities, and you will benefit from them from the top layers from the PHP land. And this is often invisible to you, okay? The developers of MySQLnd have done this in such a way that you just don't see any difference, except For performance, we're going to see that, and for many features you can't use with Lib MySQL, like, for example, the MySQL asynchronous queries and the polling of MySQL connections, the load balancing of connections, things like that. MySQLnd can do that, the multiplexing of connections with using pools and things like that. MySQLnd can do that, not Lib MySQL. This is a PHP extension, so it publishes some things in the PHP information. I will let you see that on your side. Okay, it's a strange PHP extension. Why is it strange? Because it does not provide PHP any new function, any new class. This is something usually an extension does. It publishes at least one function, one new constant, one new class, or several of them. It's not the case of MySQLnd. It will, in fact, extend the MySQL extension, for example. There are also some MySQLi underscore I don't know what functions that are only available if you use MySQLnd. There are few of them, like the fetch array and the things like that. You can't use them if you don't use MySQLnd as the bottom layer. It will work at the low layer. And important as well, the license. The license is exactly the same as the PHP license because MySQLnd source code is part of PHP source code. It is under the PHP license. So you don't have to, okay, I have the PHP license, which is binding with this lib, this lib, this lib. This one is GPL. I want to package it. I can't, and things like that. It is part of PHP. You just don't have to bother about licensing and things like that. Just don't ask yourself questions, complex questions. It's simple. It's PHP. Is MySQLnd available to me? If you are under 5.3, you have to activate it at the compilation time. If you're under 5.4 or above, it is automatically activated, enabled. Okay. It is not .so, okay? You cannot build this extension as a shared extension, okay? You cannot have a .so, but usually you use your distribution, Linux distribution system. Take care, they usually don't provide MySQLnd as the default. When you are under Debian, this is my distribution, I know it very much. When I do apt-get install PHP 5, the PHP 5 package, deb, is bound with Lib MySQL by default. I have to put it back, grab it away, and then apt-get install PHP 5 MySQLnd, and then I will replace the MySQL part of the PHP package with MySQLnd. I have to do it by hand. It's not the case by default. Under Debian, it depends on your distribution. You should read the documentation or get information about that. So in PHP, when you use PHP from php.net, starting from 5.4, it is the default. You will benefit from MySQLnd. If you use your packet manager, just get some information. It's not sure it will use MySQLnd. What are MySQLnd features? Mainly, there are 3 features you will like using MySQLnd. Huge memory savings, I'm going to talk about this later, just in a few slides. Detailed statistics about the MySQL communication with PHP, okay? And it is highly extensible. I'll show an example. So I tried to draw the MySQLnd main components into a picture. It should look like something like this. Okay, it's pretty complicated. It's lots of layers that communicate each other. But all this on the bottom is MySQLnd, and then it communicates with MySQL, MySQLi, and or PDO. Okay, so that on the top you don't see the difference. So the first thing which is interesting, very interesting, sorry, with MySQLnd is that it saves lots of memory, particularly when you have select with lots of results. If you have selects with lots of results in the result set, MySQLnd will be very, very, very nice with you. And when you use Lib MySQL, I will show you, you will have lots of memory penalty about the selects. So this is an example. It's not very readable because I had to, well, anyway, I do a query. Then while I fetch an array about the result, and then I use this result, and then I free it, and I unset my variable. Here, when you use Lib MySQL, it is interesting to see that when the result set is stored, and when you fetch results, you have a big gap in memory. When you store the result, you eat about 32 megabytes of memory, and then when you fetch the results, you start using something like 400 megabytes of memory, okay? Which is, I have the result, and simply fetching it and transforming it to an array gives me a boost in memory usage, which is just not good for me. When you use unbuffered results, it's the same, except that when you use unbuffered result sets, the result sets stay on the MySQL server side. Okay, it is allocated on MySQL server side, so not on the client side. And then when you start fetching your results, you experience a big memory penalty as well. So buffered and unbuffered query, the only difference is that when you use buffered query, as soon as you query, you get back all the result sets on the client side, on the PHP side, and then you start fetching it. And when you use unbuffered query, it stays on the MySQL server side, which is not very nice. This is why PHP uses by default buffered result sets. It means that whenever you do a query, just a query, not yet a fetch or something, you query for results, and MySQL will send back using the textual protocols with one packet for each result in the result set. Will send you back lots of results, and then in the PHP memory, and then you start fetching them in the PHP memory, okay? And when it's not buffered, they stay on the MySQL server side. So this is using Lib MySQL. The fetch mode, yes, just to let you know, yes, when you use fetch array, you have lots of memory which are allocated because it duplicates the results, okay? When you use fetch row, it's pretty nice, and when you use fetch assoc, you just have a different, this is the string management for the columns, okay? Just interesting to do, just to say. Quick point, so unbuffered result sets using Lib MySQL, it's just fetch alling them into PHP memory is just very bad for your memory because you will duplicate the result set into the PHP memory. So this is not good at all. It's better to fetch in sequential way anyway, so that you just consume memory for the actual result in the result set, and then in your while loop, it should overwrite the result, the preceding one, so it will save memory as well. It's better to use like this. But this is using Lib MySQL. When you use MySQLnd, the trick is that whenever the result set comes to PHP, when you start fetching it, MySQLnd will use pointer and will save lots of memory by not duplicating the result sets in the PHP memory. That's why you should like MySQLnd, because when you yes, if you have a small select, it's just okay. If you have a big select, you select blob columns, for example, with lots of binary data, or a big result set, you will save lots of memory. This is an example. Okay, so when I use MySQLnd for the same queries we just saw a few slides ago, when I use MySQLnd, you see that when the result set is stored and when I start fetching it, there is a little bit of memory. It's something like 229 megabytes of memory, result set, and then I fetch, I grow, and then I grow to only 234. It's just 4 megabytes difference. When you use Lib MySQL, it's 200 megabyte difference, because Lib MySQL will allocate the result set in its own buffer, and we'll show you later, and PHP as well, which is pretty bad for you. Using MySQLnd, you only allocate here something like 120 megabytes. When you use Lib MySQL, it's 260 megabytes. Okay, it's more than doubling the memory. okay, which is very, very bad for you. This is a real example, okay, using just select, and I get back next to 1 million results with a little table with not too many columns, and you see that you already have a big memory saving when you select those objects from MySQL. This is the same, but very detailed using memory analyzer, where we can see that the Lib MySQL allocates for about 45% of the total PHP process memory, and PHP itself, when you use fetch array, allocates memory as well. This is not very nice when you use Lib MySQL. Okay, so you have a big saving using MySQL ND. When you use select, especially big select, and you stay in read-only mode, if you modify the result set, it's going to start eating memory, but usually you don't. You just present the data to your user. Then MySQL ND will save lots of memory for you. This is very nice to have, especially in batch files or things like that, when you transfer lots of data through MySQL servers. This is very, very interesting to have. Second point is statistics. So as MySQL ND on the PHP side can communicate with MySQL, why not hook there and see whatever happens, okay? Things like byte sent, byte received, result set queries, no index used, bad index used, and buffered queries, prepared statement, buffered sets, and things like that. You have many statistics, okay, you can use. You can use them. You can see them as well from the PHP information if you want to, okay? Copy and write performed, copy and write saved, okay? This is whenever it saves memory for you. Example, using the MySQLi get connection stats, which is a MySQLi extension function, which is only available if MySQLi uses MySQL ND on the low level. Okay, you have many informations, and you can start using things like that, like a destructor for MySQLi that just tells, oh yes, you queried for 5 results, but you only fetched 2 of them, so you're leaking 3 results. Why did you select them? Like this. It's easy to do on the PHP side, okay? All it happens on the PHP side, not on the MySQL server side. We don't care about it. UNS, which is one of the MySQL and native driver developer, published a bundle for Symfony, which publishes those statistics into the debug stuff of the Symfony application. This is pretty interesting to have, so you don't have to do that on your side. And another thing which is interesting with MySQL ND is that when it's been designed, the developers that designed it just not design one black brick. It is pluggable. It is hookable. Whenever MySQL ND is going to start to send the first protocol packet to authenticate with MySQL, run this PHP code the parent, and it does. And then you have the answer. Yes, I could connect. No, I could not connect. You even can receive the bytes of the protocol in the PHP side and hook in there. Things like that. It's very interesting. Whenever you start to make a query, I can hook on this and then get back the result set. I'm going to allocate memory to store it. I can hook there, etc., etc., etc. I can do many things like you already saw this query lastly, and you store the result in something like memcache, grab the result from memcache and send it back to PDO MySQL that does not see anything, and the result does not come back from MySQL, but for a cache store. This is possible. Nowadays, everyone does this in PHP on very top layers, but you can do this on the bottom layers, even using PHP, I'm going to show you. So why not plug in? You have many plugins: query results cache, user handler, master-slave connection manager. It analyzes the query. Is it a select? Okay, put it on this connection. Is it a write? Put it on this connection. And balance them with a pool. I can provide this in php.ini. All the all these servers' IPs, and it's going to balance the connection through them whenever it has problems on the network and things. Everything happens on the PHP side, on the client side, and you don't need things like MySQL proxy or things like that. It all happens here on the client side. This is very interesting to do, particularly the master-slave connection management. We usually use so complex stacks to do this. You can do this in PHP very, very transparently. Okay, it will analyze the query, so you send a PDO query insert into something like that. It goes down into MySQLnd insert. Okay, this is a right connections. Which one is available? This one? Okay, I give it to this. And you don't see anything. It's totally transparent for you. And you have something which is called user handler, because all this happens in C land. Okay, you have to develop in C. It's not very complex when you know the API, but you have a user handler which can grab and publish the API to the user. So in PHP, you can do things using the PHP language itself. It's very interesting. All those are part of MySQLnd, so part of PHP. So all the documentation is under php.net. php.net/MySQLnd, and then plugins, and this plugin, many documentation. I translated it to French, so I remember several days to do that. It's very interesting. What you have to know as well is that MySQLnd and all those plugins are developed by the MySQLnd developers, which are actually all hired by Oracle. Okay, so they know what they do, so don't worry about this. It's very, very interesting to give a try. Lots of hooks on connection, on queries, on result set creation, on prepared statement allocation. Do you use an index? No. You can all do this in the lower layer. It's very interesting. You can do whatever you want, really whatever you want, hooking between PHP and MySQL, and do many things, everything you could invent. Even using PHP itself, it's not only about C code, okay? If you use MySQL user handler, you see you can use many things to proxy. Okay, you have a MySQLnd user handler UH connection class that you just extend, and MySQLnd will run and call for your hooks every time it goes to query, it goes to prepare, it goes to connect, disconnect. There is a problem with the connection has been reset on the TCP side or something like that. It can call hooks for you in PHP so that you can take decisions and do things. So you see, it's very easy. It's just you set your proxy, you set your hooks, you just give them to MySQLnd, and then it's going to call the code for you. And you really can do many things using this. Okay, it's not only in C, it's mainly developed in C, but this publishes many things on the PHP side. So it should be something like 30 minutes talk, so perhaps you have questions. I left some time so that you can ask questions to me if you have questions. I think there is no microphone for that. Is there a microphone? No. Okay, so there is a question over there. Yes, slides will be shared. And I have lots of invisible slides because I can give this talk mainly in 60 minutes, so perhaps I will publish them as well, but it's short time. So yes, I will publish. Other questions? Probably, yes. Two questions, actually.
First, since this we transport the part of connecting with MySQL, PHP with MySQL, from Lib MySQL clients,
Mm-hmm.
will we have to adjust the settings of our PHP, like the memory limits, for instance?
Yes, good question, good, interesting, yeah. Yes, that's an interesting question. If I switch to Lib MySQL to MySQLnd, what do I have to do on the PHP side, like the memory limit? Interesting question. When you have Lib MySQL is not part of PHP. So Lib MySQL will allocate memory on its side, and it's all right, allocate memory, yes, use it, I don't care. When you use MySQLnd, it's part of PHP side. So every memory allocation which will happen in the MySQLnd extension will use the PHP memory, and you will see it on the memory side of PHP, and it will be hit by the memory limit, and you can see this using the memory get usage and memory get peak usage. Yes. So you have to adjust your memory settings, but usually, hopefully, you don't select gigabytes of memory, I hope for you. So it should not be a problem, knowing that, as you have seen this, MySQLnd will allocate memory only once, and whenever you will start to fetch and to play with the result, it will stay very, very low in memory. So you should not experience bad things like this. It should be totally transparent, switching from Lib MySQL to MySQLnd. It should be totally transparent for you, as soon as you don't start using plugins which hook everywhere. Another quick, yeah. It is. Why isn't it the solution by default? Starting from PHP 5.4, it is. It is from PHP.NET. Now you have distributions, and they grab PHP from PHP.NET, and they start hacking the code badly. Ubuntu does that badly. So it's not really PHP anymore, and they start unpackaging every extension and packaging it so that it's easy for you, but perhaps see like DBN, perhaps by default from the distribution packets, it won't use MySQLnd by default. But from the PHP side, from PHP.NET, it's okay for us. Other question? Yes, here. Yeah. And is there a question under there?
I never heard about that.
About the str functions. So you should go on the Linux documentation or things like that. To lower, to upper, replace, str talk, and things like that. Replace does not exist in C, obviously, but things like that. Many PHP functions, names, and parameter places are copied from the C layer underlayer. This is just so that's why Rasmus says, no, in PHP 7 we won't swap the arguments. Why would we do that? You come from the C land, you are very used to an API you've been using for years, and when you come to PHP, you have to swap the arguments. It's not logical. So that shows you that when you use Lib MySQL, it has the same API that you find in PHP back when you use MySQLi or extension MySQL. Is there another questions? Yes, over there, and then here. The memory usage will be the same if you, whatever ACE API you use, if you use CLI, or it does not depend on that at all. So you just have to adjust your memory, and then it's okay. There is nothing different from CLI, FPM, or things like that. There is nothing different from those point of view. You. It's barely the same. It's barely the same. It will, when you it will be better when you, using MySQL ND, when you want to be given back the expected types. That will be nice, okay? So I select an integer column from MySQL, and then when it goes using the binary protocol, it goes through MySQL ND, which says, oh, this is an integer. Let's map it on a PHP integer so that I don't have to transform it to text and back to text to integer, integer to text. It will be a natural flow, and you should experience here using the prepared statements, okay, only because you have to use the binary protocol. You should experience little memory improvements, particularly if you have a huge result set. It starts to show improvement with big data. I mean, if you just select 5 columns, yes, it's just microseconds and you won't see anything.
For example, Doctrine uses transform data from text to...
Yes, this uses CPU cycles on the PHP side. Yep, yep. And so you don't have to try in C to turn a string to an integer. I come back to you in 3 months and you won't have the solutions because the code is thousands lines of code to do that. And try to turn back a string to an integer to a string. There are C functions that for us since the 70s, and it's, yes, in Zen Engine as well, we have one which analyzes floats and tries to grab the point and things like that. It's thousands lines of C code. So it's probably hundreds CPU cycles every time for every column in every. This is not very nice to have. And you can see that when you profile on the C level PHP. Transformation, it takes some time, like the Blackfire does for your PHP application, but on the C side. Perhaps another question, perhaps the last one, I think. Yes, last one, I think. If you have another question, if you don't use MySQL, obviously you won't be able to use MySQL ND. Yeah? If you use the MySQL ND MS plugin, it can handle that for you. You have the details on the documentation. There are some things you can't do, you should not do, and there are some things that the MySQL ND can handle for you. Like if you start a transaction, it's going to start it and stick it to the same server as the commit or things like that. It tries to do everything it can at the C layer to ease the use for you in the PHP layer. But there are some things which are not very, it's on the documentation. You should not, for example, change the session variables because it's going to change for every connection, every thread, and then you come back to Java and Oracle problems and things like that. Yes, this is a computer, so you really should read the documentation, particularly for the master slave and the multiplexer of the connections, because there are many hidden things like the transactions and the things like that that are written on the documentation, and you have lots of documentation about those plugins. They have been developed back in 2010, so it's something like 4 or 5-year-old project, so it starts to be very stable, and you start to have lots of documentation about it. So I would advise you to read the documentation of each plugin, how you activate it and how you configure it, you set it up, and how what to do and what not to do with such plugin. There are some things which are just bad to do. It's all written on the documentation side under php.net. I think it's over, so thank you. Enjoy lunch and afternoon. Thanks.